Alright guys, it's time to bust out the big guns. Literally. Have you guys seen the size of the blaster on Dagon? Even in his first form on the original WAGMI Defense cinematic trailer, I mean, he just looks like an absolute unit. He's super tall, has this massive gun, and he's just obliterating the WAGMI troops here. It was an awesome thing to see come to life in the trailer. And, I mean, again, right, he has a pretty solid stance to begin with. This is a guy who you clearly don't want to mess with. My only complaint, if I were to even call it that, would be the fact that he comes from an insectoid planet, but he looks more like an alien than he does an insectoid, right? So let's go check out his backstory real quick. I can't wait to show you guys the transformation that Dagon took over the course of the last 2 months. So Supreme Commander Dagon comes from Centaurus, where a variety of insectoids inhabit the vast majority of the planets. After centuries of galactic battles between the insectoid species, the Ugrons ultimately became the conquerors. Dagon led his troops through decisive battles against the Virtues in the last universal war across all realms. He's equipped with a crayon armor infused with NiFe. He is a decisive leader that is highly respected by even the great Temelkus. So, when you guys see the first variation of Dagon that came from GadgetBot, you're going to be like, wow, this character, started off massive, came in kind of wimpy, you'll see here in a second, and then we got this right here. So, let's go over that process. So, of course, you guys all know what original Dagon looks like. And then this was the first sketch that GadgetBot sent us on the original lineup. And kept a lot of the same features, right? The big shoulder armor. He's still pretty tall. And his left arm is encased in a gun, right? So they kept all of that. And then we gave them some notes and said, hey, we want him to look more like an insect. And so the very first sketch that they dropped on us was this one. And it definitely looks more like an insect. But unfortunately, it looks like one that you could easily stomp and get rid of. And Dagon is a force not to be reckoned with. So we needed to really beef up this character. I mean, look at his hands, over here on the side, how small they are. Even his blaster, although it is big, it's not as big as it used to be or as it is now. But there were some elements in here that we really liked and that we kept. We loved the look of the torso. We loved the look of these little arms that he has here coming out of the sides of his ribs. And then the armor in general had a really good feel to it, right? We loved the way it was layered. We loved the red. We loved the little yellow power cube in the middle here. And so we wanted them to continue to play with these colors and this feel of the armor, even on his feet too. You guys will see here shortly. And so when they came back, this is what we got. And to go from here to here, the frame is actually lined up perfect. You guys can see the transformation happen. It's almost like this Dagon ate that Dagon, and then this is what he became. So let's check this out. The midsection looks a lot better. It looks a lot more muscly too, right? Almost like he has insectoid abs here. His little arms are coming together. They made the power cube in his chest bigger. They got those big, beefy shoulder pads that we wanted. And then there's a tube going from what you would assume the power cube in the middle to his blaster. And you can kind of see it right there. And so we really liked that idea. We wanted them to expand upon that some more. And then we thought originally, at least I did, that he didn't really look as balanced here between his left arm and his right arm. And you'll see that in the next rendition. They came back and they beefed it up a lot more. It just kind of looked like his arms were too small compared to his shoulders. But when they came back with Sketch 4, we thought it was a little too much beef, right? I mean, there's a huge difference between here and here. And some other things that changed. Ian actually had this really cool idea for Dagon to have like one eye or the eyes that he has could go all the way across this, like almost have like a membrane here instead of separate eye sockets. Let me zoom in so you guys can see what I'm saying. See how they connected it so it's like one big eye socket and then the eyes inside kind of move around. Just very insectoid-like, right? You can see the saliva dripping off of his mouth here. It looks really cool. But he just looked like he had a little too too many yellow tubes everywhere, and things just got a little bit too beefy on round 4. So when we came back with round 5, you'll notice some differences right away. Number 1, we haven't talked much about the bottom of his body, so you'll notice that his feet and his calves changed a little bit going from this sketch to the next one. So he was given feet that were a tiny bit bigger, obviously to support that massive upper body that he has. And of course, if he's going to fire this huge blaster, he needs to be able to stand his ground and shoot. So feet were beefed up a little bit. The gauntlet on the left was shrunk drastically, and I thought it looked so much better once it was shrunken down. The proportions just matched so much more here. And then that tube was taken away on the left-hand side. You can see right here there's a tube, and then right there's no longer a tube there. Just, I thought it was too many tubes, and I wanted to keep the focus of the energy going into that blaster. And then we moved on to the next round, and he started to be really pulled together on round 6. His head got a lot more detail. You guys can see he's definitely given off that insectoid vibe, all that saliva dripping from his fangs. His crown on his head was detailed out more. You can tell it kind of has like that insect armor. They worked on his hands a bit more, these smaller hands, and then more detail was added throughout his body. And then some other changes you might notice is actually his chest plate changed quite drastically too, right? I actually think it looks a lot better here. So we kept the gem in the middle, the power source, but the chest plates itself were changed to give him what looks almost like pecs on top of his abs, which I thought really brought the front of the character to life here and showed his bulkiness, right? He's just not some tiny, little insect inside of a big suit. He's actually a big insect with big armor on top of that. But then Lewis, I believe it was Lewis, he had the idea to further enhance this gauntlet, and because right now it almost looks like that is his hand inside of a glove, and we wanted it to come across more that he had like a gauntlet on top of his hand, so his hand inside was actually much smaller. And so on the next sketch, you can see right here, it almost looks like armor being put over his arm, versus here where it looks like his hand is inside of a glove. So that was a really good change, really good catch by Lewis on that one. And then the armor got a few more details and upgrades. You can see the shoulder pads here got turned more into like panels with a split here down the middle, whereas before it was just one big shoulder piece. So that was really cool. And then some of these lights got adjusted too. You'll notice the ones on his shoulders were actually removed, and the ones on his chest piece were also removed right here because the whole thing changed. But the character really started to come to life, and those eyes just really started to look super creepy, right? Which is exactly what you want from an insectoid being. This is how you want it to look. The feet got a bit more detail as well, a much stronger stance with the legs. The thigh pads, you'll notice, also got more curvature to them. They're more form-fitting to his body, which I thought was really cool. You can see his knee popping out here. So the armor became less of a suit and more of like armor on top of this body that he already had there. But we weren't really feeling the color variation on his little arms especially. And so when we went into the final version, we figured, hey, let's do something to really break that up. And you'll notice it went from like this purplish color to that more of a lighter gray. And then there were some reds brought in here too. Almost like he's wearing an undersuit that the armor is going on top of, okay? And it really kind of brought the attention to the hands. And as we got in with more and more detail, you can see that those colors were actually changed to yellow. So the red, we felt like it just blended too much with the armor, and it would actually look cooler if the pattern matched the power cube in the middle of his chest and the tubes going throughout his body and over to his blaster cannon on his left arm. And so that was all changed. His fingernails had some green added there just to really create some contrast between his arms and his torso. And I think it really worked. It really popped. And then the eyes just got brought to life. I mean, look at these crazy eyes, man. They just look so good. And then some more detail was added inside of this neck piece on his armor. And you'll also see that his hand got some much more detail as well on this gauntlet here on the left. They just made the pieces in between the fingers a bit darker, but that's Dagon. I mean, what a difference going from this Dagon right here to this one. I mean, there's just no comparison, right? Small insectoid, he looks kind of creepy, but like anybody could just kind of kick him over, and then bam! No. Dagon has entered the building, and then of course, you guys probably noticed the alien symbol was put on his chest plate right there. So, Dagon, man, Dagon is ready for battle, and after the battle royale we had the other day, he already looks like he's one of the most favorite characters on the alien team. So, be sure to check out the rest of the videos for all the other characters. Subscribe, tap that notification bell, and we'll see you in the next video. See you guys.